Welcome to this exciting course. I'm thrilled to have you here as we embark on this journey together. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of biographies, focusing on how to describe significant life events in English. To get the most out of this course, I encourage you to follow the slides carefully. Take notes on the important points that resonate with you, and don't hesitate to review the content if you have any questions. This will help reinforce your understanding and make your learning experience richer. Throughout this course, we will explore various aspects of a person's life, covering everything from their birth and childhood to their achievements and lasting legacy. Imagine being able to narrate someone's life story in English, bringing their experiences to life with your words. This skill is not just about learning vocabulary, it's about connecting with the stories that shape who we are as individuals. By the end of this course, you will master the vocabulary needed to express and describe these significant events clearly and confidently. You'll be able to share fascinating stories about people's lives, whether they are famous figures or someone close to your heart. So, get ready to unlock a new way of expressing yourself and to enhance your English skills. I am confident that you will find this journey enjoyable and enriching. Let's get started on this adventure of learning together. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us which city you are watching from. Continuing our course, let's explore the foundation of what a biography truly is. A biography is essentially a narrative record of a person's life. It captures their achievements, challenges, and the legacy they leave behind. Think of it as a story that unfolds, revealing the moments that define who someone is. Now, notice that every biography follows a timeline. This timeline typically starts with birth, moves through childhood, highlights significant accomplishments, and concludes with the end of the person's life. This structure helps us organize the information clearly and effectively. For example, when we say he was born in Rio de Janeiro, we are marking the beginning of his story, setting the stage for everything that follows. As we dive deeper, we'll learn how to articulate these stages in English, using simple phrases and vocabulary to convey each part of the life journey. It's interesting to observe that understanding this structure not only aids in writing biographies, but also enhances our storytelling skills in general. We all have stories to tell, and being able to organize them can make them more compelling. In the next slide, we will discuss how to indicate specific dates and places in biographies and how these details enrich our narratives. By understanding the significance of where and when events happen, we can paint a more vivid picture of a person's life. So let's keep building this framework as it will serve as a powerful tool in your journey to narrating life stories in English. Moving forward in our journey, let's dive into an essential aspect of writing biographies: how to indicate dates and places of origin. This is crucial because it helps us anchor the events in time and space, giving our stories context and depth. When we talk about someone's life, we often want to specify when and where significant events took place. For example, we can use on to introduce specific dates, like saying, Iboza, she was born on July 22nd, 1992. This phrase clearly tells us the exact moment in time when her story begins. On the other hand, when we mention places, we use in. For instance, that's saying, that's in Texas, adds the geographical context that helps the listener visualize where this event occurred. So you might say, she was born on July 22nd, 1992 in Texas. This sentence not only presents a date, but also paints a clearer picture of her origins. It's interesting to observe that this pattern holds true for cities and countries too. For cities, we say in New York or in Sao Paulo, while for countries, we say in Brazil or in the United States. These simple rules help us communicate effectively and ensure that our biographies are clear and informative. Now, consider how these details can enrich your narrative. When you describe someone's life, including the dates and locations where pivotal events occurred, can truly bring their story to life. It helps your audience connect more personally with the experiences shared. In the next slide, we'll explore how to introduce the person's identity and their early steps in life. This will build upon the timeline we are creating as we start to flesh out who they are beyond just dates and places. Let's keep this momentum going. Now that we've established how to indicate dates and places, let's take a closer look at identity and the early steps of a person's life. This part of the biography helps us understand who the person is on a deeper level. When introducing someone, it's essential to present their full name along with any nicknames they might have. For example, you could say, "She is known as Emily, but her friends call her M." This not only personalizes the introduction, but also gives a glimpse into how the person is viewed in their social circle. Next, let's talk about family context. Using phrases like daughter of or son of helps us understand a person's background and heritage. You might say, "She is the daughter of a renowned artist," which adds depth to her identity. It tells us more about her influences and the environment she grew up in. Then we can describe where they grew up by saying grew up in. For instance, you could say, "He grew up in a small town in Ohio." This gives listeners a sense of place and can help them visualize the surroundings that shape the person's early life. Notice how these elements come together to create a fuller picture of the individual. Incorporating their name, family background, and childhood location enriches our narrative and helps others connect with the person's story. In the next slide, we will delve into the vocabulary related to a person's childhood and the key actions that define those formative years. Understanding how to express these experiences will further enhance your ability to narrate life stories. So, let's keep building this engaging biography together. Continuing our course, let's focus on childhood vocabulary, specifically the key verbs that describe this important phase of life. We've already touched on the identity and early experiences that shape who a person becomes. Now, it's time to explore how we can express those childhood milestones in our biographies. One of the first significant events in a child's life is starting school. We can say started school to indicate this moment. For example, you might say, "He started school at the age of 6." This simple phrase marks a major transition, opening the door to education and social interactions that will influence their future. Next, we can talk about moving to different places. The phrase "move to" is essential for showing how geographical changes can impact a person's life. For instance, you could say, "She moved to a new city when she was 10." This not only tells us where the individual lived, but also hints at the challenges and new experiences they faced during that time. Another useful phrase is "lived in," which helps us describe the places that played a significant role in a person's upbringing. For example, saying, "He lived in a cozy house near a park," adds a vivid image to their story, allowing listeners to visualize their childhood environment. Now, I want you to think about how these phrases come together. Let's try a quick exercise. Complete the sentence. "I grew up in Upper Funfund and started school in Upper Funfund." This activity helps you practice using the vocabulary we've just discussed while personalizing your narrative. As we move to the next slide, we will explore the foundational achievements and experiences that define adulthood. We'll build on the childhood memories we've just discussed, connecting them to the milestones that follow. This continuity is crucial for crafting a complete biography. So, let's keep this journey going. Now that we've explored childhood vocabulary and the pivotal moments that shape a person's early years, let's transition into the next chapter of our biography, adulthood. This phase is crucial as it often marks the beginning of a person's professional achievements and significant life events. In English, we use the simple past tense to narrate these completed actions. For instance, when we say, She graduated, we are not just sharing a fact, we are highlighting an important milestone that reflects dedication and hard work. Graduation often signifies the culmination of years of education and the opening of new opportunities. Similarly, phrases like he started his career or they moved to London convey the steps individuals take towards their aspirations. Each of these actions carries weight and tells a part of the person's journey. For example, if you say he started his career as a teacher, you're not just stating a fact, you're indicating the path he chose and the impact he hopes to have on others. It's interesting to observe how these achievements are often interconnected. Consider how graduating from university might lead someone to move to a new city for a job opportunity. Each step builds on the last, creating a narrative that flows seamlessly from one phase of life to the next. As we continue our course, think about the verbs and phrases we've discussed in relation to adulthood. These are foundational for constructing a biography that captures the essence of someone's life journey. Next, we will delve into specific action verbs in the past tense that illustrate these professional milestones even further. This will help you articulate the accomplishments and challenges that define a person's career path. Let's keep moving forward. Moving forward in our journey, let's focus on action verbs in the past tense that are essential for narrating the start of a professional life. We've just discussed how significant achievements during adulthood help shape one's identity. And now we'll explore specific phrases that capture these milestones. One of the most impactful phrases is started working. When we say he started working, we are marking the beginning of a person's professional journey. This moment can be a defining point in their life, filled with new responsibilities and experiences. For example, you might say, she started working at a local cafe while studying, illustrating how she balances her education with gaining work experience. Next, consider the phrase was chosen for. This indicates selection and recognition, which can be pivotal in a biography. When you say he was chosen for a special project, it highlights not just his skill, but also the trust others placed in him. Such recognition can open doors to further opportunities, showcasing the individual's potential. Another important phrase is graduated from. This statement signifies the completion of a cycle, whether in education or training. For instance, you could say, she graduated from university with honors. This not only reflects her academic achievements, but also sets the stage for her future endeavors. Notice how these phrases work together to build a narrative that emphasizes key moments in a person's life. Each verb we use paints a picture of their journey and connects their past experiences to their current achievements. As we move on to the next slide, we will delve into vocabulary related to a person's career, helping to further illustrate their professional trajectory. So, let's continue to build this engaging biography. Now that we've examined the action verbs that help narrate the beginnings of a professional life, let's delve deeper into vocabulary specifically related to a person's career. This will enrich our biographical narratives by highlighting their accomplishments and collaborations. One powerful phrase is released an album. This phrase is particularly significant for musicians and artists as it marks a key moment in their career. For example, you might say, she released her first album in 2015. This not only indicates the debut of her music, but also reflects her dedication and creativity. Think about how this moment could shape her identity as an artist and influence her future opportunities. Next, consider the word role. This term is essential when discussing someone's contributions to film, theater, or other productions. When you say, he played the role of a detective in the movie, you're not just describing what he did, you're also capturing the essence of his character and the skills he demonstrated. It's interesting to observe how roles can define an actor's career, often leading to more significant projects based on their previous performances. Another important phrase is partnered with. This indicates collaboration, which is vital in many fields, from business to creative industries. For instance, you could say, she partnered with a well known director for her latest film. This shows the strategic relationships that can amplify someone's career, leading to innovative projects and greater visibility. As we move forward, think about how these terms help paint a fuller picture of someone's professional life. In the next slide, we will explore how to construct a narrative that connects these career milestones with the individual's journey, emphasizing their growth and achievements. Let's continue to build this engaging biography together. Continuing our course, let's focus on constructing the trajectory of a person's career, particularly in the context of their achievements and significant milestones. We've already discussed how career beginnings are marked by key actions, and now we will explore how to narrate these pivotal moments using specific examples to illustrate their importance. For instance, in 2009, she released her first album. This was not just a simple event, it marked the start of her journey in the music industry. Notice how this release could be seen as a launching pad for her career. It took dedication, creativity, and hard work to reach this point, and it likely opened many doors for her. Later, she partnered with a major label. This partnership is crucial because it indicates recognition and support from a well established entity in the industry. When we say partnered with, we highlight the importance of collaboration in achieving greater visibility and opportunities. Think about how this partnership could lead to more resources, better production quality, and a wider audience. After that, she would likely experience various accomplishments and challenges, shaping her legacy. It's interesting to observe that these milestones don't just happen in isolation, they are interconnected. Each step builds on the previous one, creating a narrative that showcases her growth and influence. As we reflect on these examples, consider how they might apply to the biographies you wish to create. The sequence of events, like the release of an album followed by a partnership, creates a compelling story. Eventually, this trajectory leads to lasting recognition and influence, which we will discuss further in upcoming slides. This will help you articulate the profound impact individuals can have through their work. Let's keep building this engaging narrative together. Moving forward in our journey, let's explore the challenges that often arise during adulthood. We have discussed the exciting milestones in a person's career, but life isn't just about achievements. It also includes significant struggles that shape character and resilience. A key phrase to understand here is diagnosed with. This expression is often used to describe health conditions that individuals may face throughout their lives. For example, when we say she was diagnosed with diabetes, we are not just stating a fact. We are acknowledging a pivotal moment that can influence many aspects of her life. Think about how such diagnoses can lead to lifestyle changes and personal growth. They can teach valuable lessons about health, perseverance, and even the importance of seeking support from others. Next, consider the word struggles. This term encompasses the obstacles that people encounter and the courage they display in overcoming them. When we say he faced many struggles, we are highlighting not just the difficulties, but also the strength it takes to confront them. It's interesting to observe that these struggles often foster resilience and can become defining moments in a person's biography. For instance, you might share how someone overcame personal challenges to achieve their dreams, inspiring others along the way. Additionally, the terms candid and recovery are vital in this context. Being candid means being open and honest about one's experiences, including the challenges faced. When someone shares their journey of recovery, whether physical or emotional, it can resonate deeply with others. For example, when we say, She was candid about her recovery from an injury. We are acknowledging her bravery and discussing her path to healing. As we step into the next slides, we will discuss how public life can amplify these personal narratives, often intertwining struggles and triumphs in a way that captivates audiences. Now that we've explored the challenges and triumphs individuals face, let's shift our focus to the role of fame and relationships in shaping a person's narrative. Continuing our course, we'll examine how public life can magnify both achievements and personal struggles. Fame, as we know, brings a spotlight that can amplify one's accomplishments. For instance, when we say someone's success is magnified by the media, we acknowledge how exposure can enhance their visibility and influence. This means that achievements like winning an award or releasing a best selling book gain even more significance when they are celebrated publicly. Think about how a musician's Grammy win can elevate their career, reaching audiences far beyond their initial fan base. On the other hand, fame can also bring scrutiny. When we talk about someone's public life, we refer to how their actions and choices are often under constant observation. This can lead to immense pressure, especially when navigating romantic relationships. For example, consider how a celebrity's romantic relationship might be covered in tabloids, impacting their personal life and decisions. This scrutiny can add layers of complexity to their experiences, making their struggles more pronounced. It's interesting to observe that today's biographies frequently delve into these aspects, exploring how fame can amplify both the highs and lows of a person's life. The narrative becomes richer when we see how public perception intertwines with personal experiences, offering a fuller picture of who they are. As we prepare to move into our next segment, we will discuss the legacy and recognition that come from these experiences, highlighting how individuals can leave a lasting impact on society. Let's continue to uncover these fascinating stories together. Moving forward in our journey, let's delve into the vital concepts of legacy and recognition. Building on our previous discussions about fame and the complexities of public life, we now explore how individuals are celebrated for their contributions and the lasting impact they create. Accolades or awards and honors received throughout a career play a significant role in shaping a person's legacy. For instance, when we say someone was named as one of Time's 100 most influential people, we are not just recognizing their achievements, we are acknowledging their influence on society. This highlights how their actions have shaped cultures, inspired movements, or even transformed entire fields of knowledge. Think about influential figures like activists or scientists. Their work often leads to significant changes in the world, and as a result, they are celebrated for their contributions. It's interesting to observe that recognition doesn't just come from achievements, it is also about the impact one has on others. For example, consider an author whose stories inspire generations. Their influence extends beyond mere words. It shapes how readers perceive the world and themselves. As we discuss these concepts, notice how the idea of being influential is tied to the responsibility that comes with it. When someone is recognized for their influence, it often means they hold the power to inspire change or foster growth in others. This aspect of legacy is crucial as it connects to the narratives we've been exploring, where both triumphs and struggles contribute to a person's story. In our upcoming slides, we will examine how individuals can translate their legacy into philanthropic efforts, further extending their influence in society. Let's continue to uncover the layers of these fascinating life stories together. Continuing our exploration of legacy and recognition, let's now focus on the impactful role of philanthropic work. As we've discussed, many individuals use their influence not just for personal gain, but to transform communities and address social issues. This is where the term philanthropic work comes into play. It refers to efforts made to improve the welfare of others, often through charitable donations or initiatives. Notice how many biographers highlight these contributions. For instance, a celebrity might become a goodwill ambassador for a charity, dedicating time and resources to raise awareness for important causes. Think about how a well known athlete might use their platform to advocate for children's education, inspiring fans to get involved. Their actions can create a ripple effect, encouraging others to join in and support meaningful change. It's interesting to observe that philanthropic efforts can sometimes redefine a person's legacy. While achievements like awards and honors are significant, the lasting impact of helping others often resonates more deeply with society. For example, consider the influence of someone who has funded community programs or supported disaster relief efforts. These contributions not only change lives, but also inspire others to take action. In our next slides, we will delve deeper into how these philanthropic ventures can lead to new ventures and projects that continue to make a difference. By examining these connections, we can see how the journey of an individual can evolve, intertwining personal achievements with a broader societal impact. Let's keep uncovering these compelling narratives together. Now that we've discussed the importance of philanthropic work and how it contributes to a person's legacy, let's transition into the concept of maturity in one's career. Continuing our journey, we explore the vocabulary related to maturity, specifically focusing on ventures, records, and accomplishments. As individuals progress in their careers, they often embark on new ventures. The term ventures refers to the new projects or businesses they launch during this stage of their life. For instance, think of a successful entrepreneur who, after years in the industry, decides to start a nonprofit organization aimed at helping young entrepreneurs get started. This is a perfect example of how maturity can lead to impactful ventures that not only fulfill personal goals, but also benefit the community. Now, notice how many seasoned professionals also break records later in their careers. This term means they surpass historical benchmarks in their field. For example, a musician might release an album that becomes the fastest selling record in history, proving that success can continue to grow even after years of hard work. It's fascinating to see how these achievements can redefine their legacy and inspire new generations. Additionally, being accomplished reflects someone who has achieved significant feats throughout their life. This term encapsulates the journey of individuals who have not only excelled in their careers, but have also made meaningful contributions to society. For example, an author with a series of best-selling books not only showcases their talent, but also influences countless readers along the way. As we move forward, we will look at how these elements of maturity intertwine with the conclusion of a biography, highlighting the journey from accomplishments to the lasting impact one leaves behind. Let's continue to uncover these powerful narratives together. Now that we've explored the maturity in one's career and the impactful ventures that can emerge from it, let's transition to the conclusion of a biography. This part marks the end of a life journey where we reflect on everything that has been accomplished. It's important to remember that every story has an ending, and how we express that can convey a great deal of respect. When we say someone died on date, it's a straightforward fact. However, using phrases like passed away is a more gentle and respectful way to communicate this sensitive information. Think about how we often want to honor someone's legacy when discussing their passing. By choosing our words carefully, we show that we value their life and contributions. It's interesting to observe that the language we use can shape how we remember someone. For example, instead of simply stating the facts, you might say they passed away due to complications, which acknowledges the difficulties they faced without reducing their life to just the end. This respectful phrasing can provide comfort to those who are grieving, as it reflects a deeper understanding of the person's journey. In the context of biographies, this conclusion can also highlight key themes of their life. Just as we've discussed the achievements and philanthropic efforts, we can reflect on how their struggles and successes intertwine to create a rich narrative. As we prepare to review the verbs of life in the next slide, think about how these actions, whether it's being born, living, working, or passing away, are fundamental to crafting the stories we tell about individuals. Each aspect contributes to the tapestry of their life, leaving us with lessons and inspirations to carry forward. Let's continue to explore this together. Now that we've reflected on how to conclude a biography respectfully, let's shift our focus to reviewing the key verbs of life that we've encountered in our journey. This is an important step as we prepare to weave together the narratives we've explored. In any biography, the use of the simple past tense is essential. It allows us to state completed actions clearly and effectively. Think about the core elements of a person's life. They were born, they lived, they worked, and ultimately, they died. These actions are definitive and form the backbone of any life story. For instance, when we say someone that was born in 1980, it provides a precise moment that anchors their entire narrative. However, we also encounter the past continuous tense, which describes actions that were ongoing during specific periods of a person's life. For example, when we say someone was growing or was becoming, we are capturing the essence of their development. It's interesting to observe how this tense allows us to paint a richer picture of someone's journey. It shows that life is not just about milestones, but also about the processes and changes that occur along the way. As we continue to review these verbs, notice how they intersect with the biographical descriptions we've discussed. The simple past gives us clear facts, while the past continuous adds depth and context to those facts. This combination is powerful in storytelling, making it easy for readers to visualize both the accomplishments and the growth of an individual. In our next slide, we will practice structuring a narrative using these verbs effectively. This will help us create engaging biographies that resonate with our audience. So let's get ready to put our knowledge into action. Now that we've reviewed the key verbs that shape our understanding of life stories, let's practice structuring a narrative effectively. This is an essential skill for crafting engaging biographies that resonate with readers. First, we start with the introduction, which sets the context for the individual's life. Here, we include vital details such as their birth, family background, place of origin, and early years. For example, when we say someone was born in a small town, we not only provide a date, but also evoke a sense of place that can shape their identity. Think about how many great stories begin with these foundational elements, painting a picture of where someone came from and what influences shaped them. Moving forward, we dive into the development of the narrative. This section highlights significant events that define a person's journey. We discuss their career, achievements, challenges, relationships, and public impact. Each of these components adds layers to the narrative. For instance, consider a well-known scientist whose groundbreaking research not only advanced their field, but also had a profound impact on society. By sharing these details, we illustrate how their experiences shaped their legacy. Finally, we conclude the biography by reflecting on the individual's legacy. This is where we ponder what they left behind for the world and how they are remembered today. A powerful conclusion might highlight a person's philanthropic work or innovative contributions, showing their lasting influence. It's interesting to think about how a single life can inspire others long after they are gone. As we prepare to put this structure into practice in our next slide, consider how these elements come together to form a cohesive and compelling narrative. Let's get ready to craft our own biographies. Continuing our course, let's delve into the fourth chapter, focusing on legacy and memory. We've talked about how to structure a biography and reflect on a person's achievements and challenges. But now we want to explore what happens after their story is told. The documents, diaries, and personal memories we leave behind play a crucial role in transforming a life into a lasting narrative. These elements not only capture significant moments, but also help future generations understand the impact of an individual's life. Think about it. When we look at old letters or journals, we get a glimpse into someone's thoughts and feelings, which adds depth to their story. Notice how the impact of a person often extends far beyond their fame. Their works and inventions can shape entire generations. For instance, take Roald Dahl, the beloved children's author. Many know him for his imaginative stories, but few realize that he also invented a medical device, a brain drainage valve that has saved countless children's lives. This fascinating aspect of his life illustrates that a person's legacy can encompass both their creative contributions and their practical inventions. It's interesting to observe how these two facets of legacy can coexist. While many remember Dahl for his whimsical tales, his invention highlights a deep commitment to making a difference in the world. This dual legacy serves as a reminder that every individual can leave an indelible mark, whether through art, innovation, or acts of kindness. As we move forward to the next slide, we'll explore the vocabulary that helps describe endings and transitions in a biography, paving the way to articulate how we remember and honor those who have passed. Let's continue this journey together. Moving forward in our journey, let's explore the vocabulary related to the end of a life story. We've discussed how important it is to reflect on a person's legacy and the memories they leave behind. Now, we'll delve into the respectful language we use to describe the conclusion of a biography. One common phrase is to pass away. This term is universally recognized and conveys the gravity of loss in a gentle manner. It's a way to honor the individual while acknowledging their departure from this world. Similarly, to be laid to rest is a formal expression that evokes a sense of dignity and respect for the deceased. It captures the solemnity of their final moments and the care taken in their remembrance. When we talk about a person leaving behind a legacy, we highlight what remains after they are gone. This could be their contributions to society, their art, or the love they shared with others. For example, think of a teacher who inspires generations of students. Their influence can last long after they've passed, shaping the lives of many. This idea of legacy underscores the essence of how we remember individuals, not just for their achievements, but for the impact they had on those around them. In our digital age, we see how tributes and memorials can spread globally within minutes. The transition from biographical to historical is fascinating, as it depends on how a person's life resonates with future generations. Consider how stories of influential figures can inspire us today, connecting us to the past and reminding us of the values they stood for. As we prepare for our final slide, let's think about how we can articulate our own stories and those of others, ensuring that every life, with its unique narrative, continues to inspire and resonate. As we reach the conclusion of our course, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned together. We started by exploring the essence of a biography, understanding that it is more than just a collection of facts. It's about telling a life story filled with rich details that connect us to the individual. We discussed how to present key moments, from early beginnings to significant achievements and challenges, and how these elements shape a person's legacy. We also learned the importance of language and vocabulary in crafting an engaging narrative. The words we choose, whether they describe milestones or transitions, are vital in conveying respect and significance. Remember, the phrases we use, like to pass away or to be laid to rest, allow us to honor those we write about with dignity. Now, as you think about your own narratives, remember that you are the author of your own story. This is not just about others, it also includes your own journey. I encourage you to take the challenge of writing a brief biography of someone special to you, or even reflecting on your own life milestones, your birth, childhood memories, achievements, and dreams for the future. Thank you for your participation and dedication throughout this course. I hope you feel equipped to share these stories, both for others and yourself. Every story has the power to inspire, to teach, and to connect people across generations. I encourage you to revisit this material whenever you need, as the skills you've gained will serve you well in many aspects of life. Congratulations on completing this course, and remember your story matters. If you are watching on YouTube, check the video description. It has the step-by-step guide on how to get your certificate. If you are watching on Zante Academy or pveduca.com, mark this lesson as completed to finish the course and unlock your certificate.